Hi, I have your file right here, and I just want to show you a couple of things. I'm really impressed with how you did this. But I want you to, just a minute, I'm actually made a path for you for a second for the window. And I'm going to click away from it. I'll show you that in a second. See this path that you have here that is reversed? I know it was for your shadow, but still, I want you to know how to fix it. Okay, so a path is supposed to be dark on the outside, light on the inside, so that you don't have to inverse the path. So how do you fix it? Well, you click to the path, you hit your P key, you hold Command or Control, and you make a big box around the path like this so all the points are selected. Then, watch this. You can go up here and redo it to a combined path. Now, as I click on this, please watch this change to a dark background and a light interior right now. See it? So now we've fixed the path, so all you have to do if you ever wanted to use it is just Command or Control click on it, and it's a regular path. You did a really good job. The only thing you did that is, in my estimation, wrong is you added the shadow to the background layer. And remember that that would be what I call destructive, because if the client wanted the shadow changed, you would have to redo both the background and the shadow. So make sure that you would put that on a regular layer, okay? Just a regular layer. Now, you do have a copy of that same background here. So I'm going to make a new layer by itself because I wanted you to see that by having it by itself, we could put it in very dark and then Gaussian blur it and then remove the opacity. So watch this. I'm going to use this new path, well, not the new path, but the path we fixed, and I'm going to Command or Control click on it. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the B key, hold Alt or Option, and sample a dark foreground or background color, which I just did. Now I'm going to fill it on this layer, so I'm making sure I'm actually selected on that layer. I'll go Alt Backspace or Option Delete to fill. Now, because, and I want to show you something else. You didn't need, and I'm going to redo this for you, you didn't need to follow the drawing of the car down here, okay? You didn't need to do that. So I'm actually going to fix this for you and show you that that created some issues. See this missed little edge here? You wouldn't have needed to do that, and I'll show you why. Remember in Photoshop, a bottom layer, something on a top layer crops something on a bottom layer, right? So I'm going to Control Z or Command Z back until it's not filled. Okay, now I'm going to click on this path again and I'll duplicate it. I just want to show you where I want your head to kind of be when it comes to something that's on a lower layer. So I'm going to take the P key and I'm going to get rid of all these points here. So look, I marquee them. I held the Command key or Control key. I'm marking these 3 points, hitting the Delete key. Now I'm going to marquee these points here on the tire and hit the Delete key. Now I'm going to marquee these over here and take away all of these points here. Now watch how the shadow could have been done. All you would have had to do is come around the back of the car like this and just go straight through the car right over to your other front tire. Because why? Well, the car is on an upper layer. The shadow's on a lower layer. So that will prevent any of this little missed edge thing here. And I can show you how to fix that too in a second, okay? As a matter of fact, maybe I should show you that now. So this is because the mask on the car needs a little work. So what we have to do is just take our brush tool and just paint that away. See, this is left over from the Jeep background. So all we have to do is click on the mask, hit the B key, make it really tiny. Really tiny. Now let's get close. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to right hand click and make it all the way pretty much hard. Okay, now I'm painting in black, make sure the foreground color is black, right? And I'll put this up to 100 right now, just to get it done quickly. Now look, if I come close to this, do you see how I'm using my brush very slowly? I'm just clicking here, and I'm taking away, by painting more black on the mask, I'm taking away that highlight. And I'm being careful with it. I'm just using my brush and I'm clicking so that it looks good from a distance. Now let's just keep on going. I just want you to watch me do this whole thing. And this happens all the time. Now, if you take away too much like this, don't worry about it. Why? You can always hit the X key and put the tire back. See how I just did that by painting white on the mask. Now look at how much better that looks. You have a little bit right there too. So I'm going to take this away, meaning, I'm sorry, make the brush smaller, hit the X key, and let's take this away too. This always happens. You just need to doctor it and just continue to re-edit. I'm not making a great thing happen here, but you can see that I'm so close that when I back off on this, whoops, I made a mistake. See, I made a mistake. I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to go through like this. Whoops, that was really bad. Okay, let's just go real slow, Mr. Sorio. And let's just go right through here and just take it away. I could draw a path for this, but I don't feel that that's totally necessary. I'm almost done. That is not very good, Mr. Sorio. So I'm making a mess. So I'll hit the X key and I'll now clean up the Jeep edge right there. So you can see that I can doctor that, and just coming back with black and white. Now let's take white and paint it through here on the mask. Remember, I'm clicked over, look over here, on the mask. So now look at how clean that is. You can't even tell that I made any mistakes. Overall, your cutout path was beautiful. You have a little bit right there. See that right there? So let's take the X key and make sure it's black. And now I'll come through here and I'll just remove some of that background that was left over because the mask, your path was just a little bit too big there. Now, let's go across the Jeep and look. Okay, look at this back one here. That's pretty much left over. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of a better way to do this. So I'm going to take the P key, and I know this is a lot, but this is just stuff that has to get done. So I'm going to make a quick path, kind of like what I did on the shadow. So look, I'm making a quick path. Okay, now all I have to do is go click, click, click. Let me find my first point and click right up here. Let's go over to here, right to here, and then I'll close the path. Now, do you see how I made that little path in the back right there? Okay, look over here in the work path. I'm just going to double click it and save it. Now I'm going to hold Command or Control and make a selection of that. Now all I have to do is make sure I'm clicked on the mask, right? Hit the B key, make my brush bigger, and by having the protection of the path, look, I can just go straight down with black. You see how nice that was? Because the path saves me, right? So let's now look at that and say, wow, that looks pretty good. There's a little bit more right there. So I'm going to deselect, just hit Control D, make the path smaller, the brush smaller, and just click that away right there. Now that's really pretty. And you have a little bit more here. I'll just try to freehand that, coming down like this, and just a little bit more. I know I'm being picky. I made a boo-boo, so I know I'm being picky. Let me hit the X key and fix that right there. Okay, now here is the shadow. So let's move my path palette out of the way. Let's move this tool palette out of the way. And I'm going to show you the new path. So I'm clicked on it, right? Over here, right? So I Command or Control click. I'm clicking to the shadow layer. Make sure I'm on the shadow layer, not the background. Okay. I'll Option Delete or Alt Backspace Fill. Now watch how nice this is going to be. All I have to do is remove the opacity so I can see through it. Now listen to this. Change the mode from being opaque to transparent by going to multiply, from normal to multiply. Now, that means that the rocks underneath came through better. Now let's just Gaussian blur it. So let's go to blur and Gaussian blur it until it looks good. So I think somewhere around 20 pixels, a little bit less, no, a little bit more, right there. Now see how nicely that fit. Look at how nicely that works. Let's take a little bit more opacity away from it So it looks better. Ah, that looks great. Just great. Now, the window. So what I did was I drew a path for the window. Now I'm going to click back to this mask layer because the window is on this Jeep, right? So if I want to tint it back, I have to go to the mask. Now here's what I'm going to tell you. I made a little path for the windows. You can see when I drew it into the dark area. See that? Okay, so now I'm going to make a selection of it by Command or Control clicking on it. Okay, now I'm going to take the beak. I'm going to say two things here. I'm going to hit Command or Control H to temporarily hide the selection. Okay, now I'm in the B key. I have to be careful here, and I'm making the brush huge, just huge. You see how big I made that brush? Okay, now I need to put the flow not at 100, but down to about 10%. 10. I need to paint black on this window. But by having black here, I'm hitting the X key, so black is in the foreground color, right? Now, if I just click and click and click, yes, I'm painting black, but because I'm only clicking at 10%, it's more like a gray. Now, the more I click, I'll go too far with it, okay? So look, I'm gonna click it and now I've made it all the way black. Well, that doesn't look good. See how that doesn't look good? Because it doesn't look like there's any glass there. So I'm gonna Command or Control Z back, and I'm just gonna click until you can see the mountain through there, but there's still a tint of the windshield. So in essence, and I want you to see something, don't want you to panic, but I can show you this mask, what it looks like. So I'm going to Alt or Option click on the mask. Now, do you see how there is a gray, not a black, but a gray in the mask? Now, gray means that some of the transparency is working. So how do I get out of it? I either just click back over to the image, or I Alt or Option click on the mask to turn it back to normal. Now, I've done something with your text, and I want you to see, because the client wouldn't like the text so small, okay? So I have taken away that text and I actually made it larger, okay? And I made it white. Now, white didn't work. And all I did was make it a bigger font. I made it bold, okay? So it's a little bit bigger. So you had a regular font on this one here. I made it bold. Now I added a drop shadow. Look what it looks like without the drop shadow. You can't even read it. But if you add a drop shadow, and I'll double click one of the drop shadows. If you add a drop shadow and you make sure your distance is out a bit and your feather, which is size, is out a bit, look at how nice it looks, okay? Now let's go over to the logo. The client wouldn't like how the logo was lost. I love where you put it. You did a great job on the logo. But I'm going to now make a second logo. So watch this. I'm going to click to your logo layer. I'm going to make a new layer above it and call it white logo. Now, how do I do this? Well, you gave me the artwork. So meaning, look at, I'm going to turn it off and on. Now, if I Command or Control click on this layer, I turn that into a selection, correct? Now, if I turn off that layer, click to my white logo layer, make the foreground color white, I can just fill it. So I can hit Option, Delete, or Alt Backspace, and it fills. Now, I could add another cute thing to this. Okay, let's see if it works. So what I'm saying is, see this drop shadow that I have here on the text? Let me back off on it. See the drop shadow? Let me move this over. Okay, see the drop shadow that I have on the text for the word life? Okay, I'm going to use it for this one right here. So all I have to do is hold Alt or Option and drag the word drop shadow up to my white logo, and now I've even made that be kind of cool. Now, I think the client would like it if we took the entire new logo and just made it a little bit transparent like this. Just kind of kill it so a little bit of the mountain comes through the logo. Now that looks really subtle. Looks really pretty. Now all I did to your whole drawing was fix the mask around the Jeep. I turned off your layer that you put the shadow on, that layer right there, so we don't even need that layer, right? I made a new layer for the shadow, and one big thing was I clicked to your shadow layer, and instead of following the Jeep, remember that something that's on a lower layer is cropped by something that's on a higher layer. So it didn't matter that we actually drew the shadow. Let me turn off the Jeep if I can find it real fast. Look at, see how the shadow goes way up high? Well, who cares? Okay, because the Jeep covers it up, right? So kind of remember that as you move forward, but you did a beautiful job. I just wanted you to see some enhancements. Let me know what you think.